On one level, it doesn't disturb me. But I do the same thing myself sometimes. I get news that's coming in on the internet, and I'm sitting here in front of my computer, and I tell you, I get so angry, I can hardly see straight. It infuriates me. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I said it's like walking into a topless bar and finding your daughter dancing on the stage. I don't want to be here. I don't want to see what's going on. Something I love. The United States of America is being destroyed right in front of my eyes, and I'll tell you something. It infuriates. It drives me. You hear other people. It's like driving. If I'm driving and the traffic gets in my way, I lose my temper. Somebody else is driving, doesn't bother me a bit. Today you're driving. It doesn't bother me the same way it does if I'm reading it myself and I say, God. And I think perhaps you understand. Maybe that makes some sense.
No, it totally makes sense. And to watch the zombies laugh at us that are informed. Yeah. That can quote legal documents, that can quote history, that are informed. People think being ignorant is like a mantle of power. And instead, everything's going to Hades in a handbasket.
Yeah, I understand. And the way out is you have to learn some fundamentals. And if you can learn them, it's almost astonishing. I'm sure you appreciate this. We are dealing with forces they didn't just start up in the last 5 years or 10 years or even in your lifetime or mine. You start to look at this and you understand that this is so massive, it's been going on for so long, you can't put a face on it, you can't put a name on it without sitting back and saying, we are dealing with spiritual warfare. This has been going on for thousands of years. This isn't news. It seems like news, but the same process has been happening.
No, you're right, but it's coming to a head. The cancer is suddenly expanding, tentacles are shooting out of it. It's galloping very, very quickly. Because, we'll get your take on why they're moving so quick. Is it that they know they're in trouble? We'll be right back. Alfred Adask is our guest for a little bit in the next hour. Then I'm going to have a huge news blitz and also open the phones up. But there's a new incredible article by Steve Watson and Paul Watson. I was just talking about this in the first hour. I just mentioned that the government had released biological agent in 1968 in the New York subway. Death resulted. Details remain classified. They put Army doctors in the hospitals to see what it would do. It was reportedly a bacteria. This just came out at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Big Sis begins releasing biological agents into Boston subway. Assures public safety despite government history of dangerous biological testing on the American public. That's at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. We're also going to put it out on my Twitter, so you can forward it, please. We've got to get where we are upset about this. They have urban warfare drills, military checkpoints, biospraying, chem spraying, just to get us conditioned to, they always spray us. We're not talking about spraying bug poison over Dallas to kill West Nile, and boy, is that a bunch of hooey as well. Wow, what an incredible report. The Department of Homeland Security will begin releasing a dead bacteria, into the Boston subway tomorrow in an operation, it says, will test sensors designed to detect biological agents that could be released as part of a terrorist attack. Who knows what they're really going to be releasing there? I mean, with their penchant for putting cancer viruses in the vaccines. Little is known about what exactly the bacteria consist of. Well, of course, you don't let the slaves know that. And the DHS has not been very forthcoming with information, saying only that it is non-infectious material that has been approved as a food supplement. Probably yeast. The Boston Globe reports the test will begin Wednesday. Will be held periodically over the next year. Just whenever they want it. Harvard and Porter Square stations in Cambridge and the Davis Square station in Somerville. And it's all part of this new fear of alarms going off. But now they've turned off all over the country the radiation alarms. When reactors leak now, they just don't even turn the alarms on. So it doesn't scare people in places like San Diego. And they just say, we're going to raise the radiation levels hundreds of percentage points. Just say it's good for you. Yeah, let your hair fall out. The seals are dying, on the West Coast. But hey, you know what? They got radiation. You know what? Dying's fun. Okay? But we're going to keep you safe from Al-Qaeda, who they publicly run. There's a special invitation from Peter Thiel, the Bilderberg Group member, trying to take over the libertarian movement, an event to be held the following date and location for the Ron Paul campaign. We're going to be talking about that. That's interesting. Going back to Alfred Adask. Alfred, a lot of breaking news while you're here today, but let's get into this now. You were talking about how worldwide, and I've looked it up, in the Codex Alimentarius and all this, it says humans and other animals. Now, this is not just a theorem. The Illuminati is obsessed with this. The illuminated ones, at degrees above 33rd degree, most Masons don't even know there's above a 33rd. And I'm not saying this is even a Masonic conspiracy. That's only one branch of this and a thing they use to like gather people who they think are well-meaning to control the good guys around them. The evil wants to be protected by a bodyguard of good. It's very sophisticated. So they've got all these well-meaning men like George Washington, you name it. He found out about it, wrote letters about it, so they killed him. Folks, just Google George Washington's letters on the Illuminati. It's incredible. That's the Library of Congress. You can read it, signed by him as he was battling them. But the point is that he said that the Illuminati was taking over the Masons. They took him over. It's kind of like when Winston Smith pops in the door and there's O'Brien to torture him. He says, O'Brien, they got you too? And he goes, yo, they got me a long time ago, but I'm ranting. The point is that it's all about how we are the animals or the profane. We are seen as cattle. And this even goes back into the Old Testament. You know, other tribes and groups that didn't follow what the Israelites were into were the Goyim. So Goyim, cattle, chattel. That's why the Constitution and Bill of Rights, and as you know, it is a title to those that were free. If you understood the riddle, they said, free men. No free man will be barred the use of arms or property. Well, they set the precedent, as you know, at the end of the Civil War, making us all slaves. They didn't just say blacks weren't human or two-thirds human. So what you've hit isn't just your theory. It is the essence of the truth of what we're facing. And so they're dumbing us down, poisoning us, trying to deny us good education so they can fool us into thinking we're animals and that we're bad and need to be exterminated because humans are trash. They do not want us to realize that we are not profane unless we drink from the fetid cup of the Illuminati. The truth is, to say you're illuminated, they've stolen all the terms. When you love Christ and God and want to do unto others and want to build people up, that's when you're illuminated by the Spirit of Christ. But they call it illuminated, but they're not illuminated. They're illuminated by the black sunshine, by the dirty black summer, by the devil under the black wings of death. I'm ranting here, but the whole point is, look at how they said blacks weren't human, so we're allowed to enslave them. This is as old as the hills.
Yep, same thing with the Nazis declared the Jews to be Untermenschen before they marched them off into camps. Untermenschen means under man. It means subhuman. It means animals. As soon as you're declared to be an animal, then you can do anything. You can be treated like livestock. The farmer can butcher the cows and the pigs and the horses and the sheep. Why? Because they're animals. They're not made in God's image. Again, you can look at Genesis 9:6, and it tells you why you can't murder a man. And it expressly tells you because he's made in God's image. That's why you can't do it. If you will accept the status of an animal, then what's to prevent you from being murdered or killed?
And that's why they have you swear an oath when you join the military and tell that you're an animal and you're garbage and crud so that you will accept it and sign the contract with the devil so they can kill you.
Not just that. I see this as spiritual warfare, and it took me a long time. I didn't get to that until I was in my 50s before I even began to suspect it. I see it now with what seems to be clarity. The spiritual warfare is this. They're not worried about your life. They're not worried about your property or whatever gold you got or your land. That's irrelevant to them. They want your soul, and you're not going to hell unless you consent. They post it in the books. If you can read, it's there. We deem you to be animals. Did you consent to be an animal? They need your consent. Satan can't come up with a pitchfork, poke you in the butt, and make you go to hell. It doesn't work that way. You need to consent. And that's why they have, in my opinion, that they have to put this out in law where if you're smart enough and you're diligent, you can find it.
No, it's a legal posting. That's why they tell you before they stage a terror attack on television.
Yeah. They need your consent. You need to consent. Say, yeah, I'm an animal. Sure, I consent to that. Great. You're headed for hell. I think that's what's going on.
And the Bible said before each culture fell, everyone began marking themselves and hurting themselves. I'm not saying somebody's bad if every person wants tattoos or whatever and piercings all over them. The point is, in every culture, from the Aztecs to the Israelites when they went bad, that's what begins. This is all the signs.
Yeah. I understand. I've got an article here from Genocide Watch. You can find it at genocidewatch.org. It was submitted to the Department of State back in 1996, and they identify 8 stages of genocide. And the 3rd stage is dehumanization. And the United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. And they go through, and genocide is a crime under international law, but need not include actual death. The only thing that's required is that if you commit acts that with the intent to destroy in whole or in part national, ethnic, racial, or religious groups, such as causing serious bodily injury or mental harm to members of the group, or C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. That's what they're doing when they reduce you to animals. This is an act of genocide perpetrated against the American people. They are creating conditions where they define you and me and all of our children, everybody you ever loved and liked or admired, they're all being defined as animals. They are using that the same way the Nazis used it to march people off into
And that's
camps.
why all the environmentalists teach the kids, you're scum, you're bad, you're hurting the earth, so you will actually hate yourself and not realize your incredible destiny.
That's exactly right. Will you consent to be an animal? And they teach us to do that. It goes right to the theory of evolution. Theory of evolution versus creationism. Creationism, oh, that's silly. That's
nonsense. Of course, it turns out Darwin was a super Luciferian occultist, had these visions while having a fever, was into the occult, believed that we were seeded by aliens. What's that term? Panspermia. I mean, this was a devil cult that came up with this to get us to consent to be their slaves, to get us to opt in, to think it's cool to say we don't have free will. It is the ultimate joke. They don't want you being spiritual, folks, because they are totally spiritual. They traffic in men's souls, as Revelation says.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I don't know. This is spiritual warfare, and that's a very difficult concept to understand. Again, I didn't even begin to suspect until I was in my 50s. You find this late in life. I wish I'd have known when I was 25 or 30 years old. It would have made an enormous difference in my life. But I appreciate that if people hear this, they say, oh, spiritual warfare, the guy's crazy. Well, maybe, but I don't think so. You look at this long enough, you begin to see, and you say, oh, my God. And it's when you do see it's spiritual warfare, it's encouraging, it's empowering. You begin to realize, my God, the Bible is real. God is real. These people they believe in God more than most Christians. The spiritual warfare is evidence that there's another life after this one. It's not frightening. It removes you from fear when you begin to see, oh yeah, I'm fighting these guys, but they're going nowhere next life.
And they're angry. They are so angry.
Next time, they're screwed.
Well, I mean, they take on the spirit of the God of this world. They hate life. They hate humanity. Well, the devil hates God's creation. And that's why these people burn with hate at our healthy families. They burn with hate at everything. That's why they poison our food and our water. They love hurting God's creation. And we are God's greatest creation. Now, continuing here, breaking this down, I want to get into the other points. We've covered this with you. You know, every time you've been on, probably 10 times, the point you just made, but that was very eloquently said. Let's move quickly now to the organic law of the United States, significance of the national debt, why the Bible says you can't kill a man. You already mentioned that. World's first economist, that's a great breakdown you engage in. And if you really know what you're reading there, yeah, it makes perfect sense. You know, the 7 good years, the 7 bad. The purpose of the Second Amendment, the foundation for liberty and sovereignty. Hit it.
Well, sovereignty is the big deal. Sovereignty is the key, and we hear, if you follow, I'm sure you've seen this, where the FBI and people in government are concerned about the sovereignty movement. Oh my gosh, the sovereigns are coming to get us. This country was based on the idea that every man was a sovereign. This is expressed by the Supreme Court in the case of Chisholm versus Georgia, year of our Lord 1793. That's only 18 years after the Declaration of Independence. Yeah, about 18 years.
If you're not sovereign, then the king or the bureaucrat is God.
That's what it comes down to. The question about sovereignty is who's the boss. And if I'm a sovereign,
and that's why the Bible's so powerful, the Old Testament. It's not saying some king is God. It's saying God and then man. You're in charge.
God, in the American law form, God is number one. We, the people, as individuals, are number two. And government is number three in this hierarchy of authority. Government is intended to be our public servant because we are sovereigns. Compared to the English law form that existed at the time of the American Revolution. God was number one. King of England was number two. Government was number three, served the king, and the people were number four, down at the bottom of the pecking order. And the reason they were number four is because only the King of England received his rights directly from God. All else were subjects because they did not receive their rights directly from God. The government fears the sovereignty movement because if people ever understand the spiritual foundation on which this country was built, they're going to have an argument that's going to be almost irresistible.
Well, it's a contract. I mean, in all cultures, the devil deals in contracts. Well, so does God. We have a contract from God that we can execute.
And we have turned our back, much the same as Esau. He turned his back on his birthright. Back in the Bible, he sold his birthright for a bowl of pottage. And God later in the Bible, he says twice, he says, Jacob I have loved, but Esau I have hated. And he doesn't explain in the Bible why he hates Esau, but I believe it's because Esau turned his back on the birthright. When he despised the birthright, which ultimately emanated from God, he expressed his contempt for God. He didn't know what he was doing. He was just a dumb...
And see, let me raise this, because it's such a great discussion. I don't fear physical death. I fear my bloodline and my family being good people dying. I fear that that I would have evil children. I fear that birthright would be desecrated. I mean, that's a spiritual understanding I have that no one even taught me. But I feel the birthright stretching back into antiquity, and I feel it stretching forward.
Well, it's the same thing with the unalienable rights that were declared in our Declaration of Independence. That is unprecedented in Western history. It's the first time any country, at least since the time of judges in the Old Testament, stood up and said, no, all men get their rights from God. And by virtue of all of us getting our rights from God, we are all elevated to the status of sovereigns. We are relieved from being subjects, and we become sovereigns above government rather than subjects under government. And that's what the battle's all about. If you people can catch the idea of your sovereignty and understand it's a spiritual concept, and understand that if you can support this with the First Amendment, for example, your right of freedom of religion, or Article 1, Section 6 of the Constitution of the state of Texas, or whatever state you're in, there's a guarantee of freedom of religion. You have access to these God-given unalienable rights. You can also claim them under the Ninth Amendment, which guarantees the rights that are not declared in the Constitution. There's still, if people still retain those rights, declared right there in the Declaration of Independence, those God-given unalienable rights, they're right there if you know how.
That's right. Courts can't take them.
You can get them.
Courts can say that black people aren't human, but if folks stand up and say, I am a human, they are. I mean, so much of this is a bluff. That's why they're so scared of it.
And again, it has to be this way because they're fighting for, in my opinion, because they're fighting for our souls. They don't care about your money. They don't care about your house. They want your soul. You must consent. That means you have a choice. All right? You can say yes. You can say no. Choose this day who you will serve, God or mammon. Where are you going with this? Your choice. You take responsibility for the choice. And they're saying just because you're ignorant is no excuse. Ignorance is no excuse in the eyes of the law. It might be an excuse in the eyes of the Christian faith, but again, ignorance certainly under the Old Testament didn't excuse anything.
Well, Christ did not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it.
I know it's a gray area or murky or whatever, but nevertheless, they need your consent. They're not just going to force you in. You have to consent. And if you have brains enough and you have sufficient courage and perhaps sufficient blessing, you can make these arguments, and perhaps they'll succeed. In my case, they did in one instance. It doesn't mean that I could try it again.
Well, that's why we shouldn't just roll around like victims and say the whole world's corrupt, there's nothing we can do. Yeah, if we give up and let evil occupy everything, but good has the real power. That's why they want to keep us clamped down and tell us we have no power all day, because truth and liberty and freedom is infectious, and people desire it. And once people get a taste of it, it's what fulfills. And once we start acting like sovereigns and have that confidence, then we build up humans, and humans then become stronger instead of this nanny state that seeks to make us nothing more than domesticated animals. We'll be right back. Stay with us. because we're not just here agreeing with each other. We're affirming that, yes, that is what we've discovered. That is what we found. But it's everywhere in culture. It's in every culture. This is the Illuminati secret. They're saying they're humans. We're animals. Well, let me give you a news flash. I'm not an animal. And they're trying to turn us into dumbed-down animals just so they can live this dream. These are horrible people. I'm going to break that down after Alfred leaves us and hit a bunch of the other news. But they're setting the precedent to poison our food, our water, to do unspeakable things. Tell the story quickly, because it's so important, of the world's first economist, Joseph in Genesis. This is important.
Yeah, Joseph, this is an amazing thing. I saw this probably about 10 years ago for the first time. I'm reading Genesis, and I read chapter 47, and you folks can go look. Chapter 47 in Genesis, and it describes the story of Joseph. He heard the Pharaoh had a couple of dreams. No one could interpret them. Joseph interpreted the Pharaoh's dreams. The Pharaoh had 7 great years followed by 7 bad years. He understood that's what the dreams meant, and the Pharaoh was so impressed he appointed Joseph to be his number 2 guy in Egypt. The 7 years came along, and Joseph stored up grain. We all hear that story. Stored up grain. And then he'd have grain to give the people during the 7 bad years. And that's the way the story was told to me in Bible school. I remember it back when I was a little kid. Oh, Joseph, he was such a great guy. You read chapter 47 of Genesis, and it tells you in the first year, after they started the shortage of food, famine. As soon as they started the famine, first year the people came and they said, why should we die? You got grain, why should we die? And Joseph said, I will give you grain for a year, provided you give me all of your money. And the people did. They gave him all of their money. And then Joseph took all of the money and he put it into the Pharaoh's storehouse. He didn't leave it in circulation. He crippled the economy where the people were not able to work their way through the famine by removing the money. This is interesting because they took the gold out of circulation in this country in 33 and the silver in 1968. They removed our money too. It's an interesting coincidence. Second year, people come back in the famine and they say, we're out of grain. We don't have anything to eat. Why should we die? And Joseph says, I will give you grain, but you got to give me all of your cattle. And the people say, okay, we'll give you all of our cattle. The means of production. They gave all of the production to Joseph. He gave it all to the Pharaoh. Third year, they come back and they don't have any food. And they said, why should we die? And Joseph says, I'll give you food and I'll give you grain to live for another year if you sell yourself. You sell your land and yourselves into bondage to the Pharaoh. And the people said, what the heck? Such a deal. Why should we die? They sold themselves into bondage. Joseph enslaved the Egyptian people to the Pharaoh. Prior to Joseph, the Pharaoh was there kind of like a TV evangelist. People would pay attention to him, but he didn't run and own the whole country. Joseph put the whole country under ownership and control of Pharaoh. And that's very interesting when you hear the story of the Jews later on being put into bondage by the Egyptians. And the Jews, this was so unfair. Wait a second. Joseph, the first Hebrew down there into Egypt, he put the Egyptians into bondage. But the point to this is Joseph understood economics well enough 3,000 years ago where he could put a whole nation into bondage. It's right there in the Bible. Chapter 47 of Genesis. Read it. And it's there, and you'll see. And I'll guarantee that 99% of the people in your audience have never heard this before.
No. That's why the Old Testament is a weapon system. People perish for lack of knowledge. They don't know. They think, reading old history stuff. They have no idea. I talk to executives. I've talked to billionaires who aren't that smart. They just got in a niche or a position there. It is incredible how dumbed down people are. They're like animals. They just don't have the ancient knowledge that the ancients developed. It's all waiting for us. We'll be back. Alfred, I wanted to ask you that question. Why do you think everything's moving at hyper speed now, where they're just on the news going, hey, world government? You know what? We'll answer that after the break. Finish up in this brief, short segment, long segment coming up with the story of Joseph. Any other tidbits you wanted to hit?
Well, Joseph, I don't know. We pretty much hit it. I mean, it's just a question. He captured a whole nation and put them in bondage to the Pharaoh. And the people consented all the way, and they even cheered. They said, hooray, Joseph has saved us. No, he didn't. He took those people from freedom.
And that's the story now, with the bankers engineering the collapse, then posing as the saviors.
Yeah, exactly. And it's 3,000 years anyway since the time of Joseph, and how many people it's right there in the Bible. How many people know it? It's right there. It's almost everything you need to know about economics. You can get to good economists, and they understand all sorts of interesting things about the velocity of money in M1, M2, and 3. But maybe all the average person needs to know about economics is right there in Chapter 47. If you can read, if you can see, and you say, wow, what does this mean? You can see. This is happening now. We're doing it again. It's astonishing.
I see the general public. They're either really waking up or they're like in this giggling, gibbering, delusional, childlike state. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I get what people are afraid. One thing I've seen over the years is you can bring a new idea to someone, and that person understands the idea on an intuitive level before he understands it consciously, and he'll understand that if I accept that idea, it's going to put me in a position where one of these days I'm going to be forced to choose between what I know to be right based on this new idea and just getting along in life. And I don't know that I have the courage to make that choice. I would prefer to look in the mirror every day and think of myself as a good man because I haven't made any difficult choices or refused to make those choices. I don't know if I make that very clear, but people can understand.
Beautifully said.
They will reject them if they understand this thing's going to it's going to make me have to make a very big choice one of these days, and I don't want to make that choice. I don't want to be put in that position. So they avoid.
But as soon as I started living like that, I was suddenly so fulfilled, it's like hard to even handle. I mean, these people are so empty that live in cowardice, and they think hype and trendiness will empower them, so they get deeper and deeper into trendiness, but they fill out surveys and say they're the most unhappy people in the world.
Right. Just trendiness, that conformity, it's just a place to hide. It's a place to appear that you're getting along fine. But I'll tell you something I'm sure you understand. This is a lifestyle that is dangerous. You become a dissident. You become a thorn in the side. But you have meaning in your life. And I know I have meaning in my life. And I look at other people and I understand. I'm not making much money. I'm not a wealthy man, but I'm living better than most people in this world will ever know. I have meaning. All right? And
you have your mind. You're not being chumped. You're aware. You know how things work. It's just spiritually, it's fulfilling. That's what matters. You're satisfied.
Yeah.
Stay there. I want to come back and get into that question. Why are they accelerating their program of enslavement with Alfred Adask? I'm Alex Jones. Dask.wordpress.com. Dask spelled A-D-A-S-K. Again, I am Alex Jones, your host. We've got big news coming up in the next segment after he leaves us. And then I want to break down why no one should serve the New World Order. I mean, even if you're an evil person, you're crazy to serve this New World Order, this global corporate anti-free market government that is eugenics-based. Alfred, the question. Studying this, publishing the Anti-Shyster for over a decade, researching it, having 60 Minutes demonize you. I mean, you've got your finger on the pulse out there of what's going on over the years. I see a huge awakening. Either people are getting more awake and speaking out, we're seeing it everywhere, or they're getting more dumbed down. But how do people, national news, come out and say Jones is crazy, he thinks there's a global government being established by megabanks, when all over the news they say global government's being established by megabanks? Aren't we lucky they're taking over? But simultaneously, the Southern Poverty Law Center, ADL, says it doesn't exist and I'm evil. Why do you think they're moving so quick right now?
They're desperate. When during the invasion of Iraq, Bush Jr. got bogged down. They went in and they gave him a dose of shock and awe, and they thought this whole thing would be over in 90 days. We had mission accomplished out there on the aircraft carrier and so on. Turned out we got caught up in there for 8 or 9 years. Zygmunt Brzezinski, early on, I saw him, I believe it was on the Charlie Rose program, and he was criticizing George Bush, and he said, the New World Order has been, or global government, I don't remember which one he said, but the New World Order is what he meant for sure, has been set back 20 years. And he was angry. He was pissed. All right. That tells us that their plan was not to really impose themselves upon us for another 20 years. They had another 20 years going on, which would be 10 years from now, 20 years from the beginning of the Iraq War. And he said it's been set back 20 years. They're not doing that anymore. I think in large measure because of the internet, programs like your own, people are awakening. Not everybody, but a percentage. You don't need them all. But if you can get a big enough, you hit critical mass, and all of a sudden the world just might go the other way. So I see the New World Order as acting openly and aggressively as an act of desperation. The truth of the matter is, if they are really in control, they will shear the sheep, and the sheep won't even notice that their fur has been taken. It's when they have to become overt. I mean, TSA is not evidence that the system's growing more powerful. From my perspective, it's evidence that they're growing more
And they're crazy. It's unifying everyone. It's one of the issues that's unifying people across the spectrum.
I know it's self-destructive on their part. It really is almost absurd. But it's evidence they're desperate. They're grasping for straws. What are they going to do other than kick people around? They've got nothing left. And
They're getting hundreds and hundreds of giant black armored wheeled vehicles that look like something out of a science fiction movie. They're telling us the drones are coming to get us. They really think that we're intimidated like they are. Now that may work on some of the cowards, but a lot of people who wouldn't even speak out are actually getting mad because they see the systems trying to intimidate them.
Yep, that's exactly right. Plus, they don't have enough corn cobs to deal with us. The truth of the matter is the mighty American military could barely handle Iraq, which is about the size and population of Texas. What are they going to do with not just one state like Texas? What are they going to do if they have to contend with 50? They can bluff us into submission, but they don't have the power to push us into submission. If they bluff us, we consent. And that's what they're looking for. Oh, they're going to huff and puff and blow our house down if we don't do what they say. Yeah, well, maybe yes and maybe no. It depends on how many people stand up on their hind legs and say, no, we're not going along with this. Plus, we've got tens of millions of armed Americans in this country. This is not, I don't care if you are, right now the police make up 0.3% of the population. They're outnumbered 300 to 1. The military is about the same thing, 0.3%. Even if you put them both together, they are outnumbered somewhere in the neighborhood of 100.
Oh, I know. People all the time say you can't fight the military if it goes to blows. I mean, it'll be like trying to get a hunting permit for unicorns. I mean, it would be so hard if everybody tried to go out and bag one. You couldn't even find one.
Yeah, you'd be fighting among themselves. No, I get to shoot. No, I get to shoot. You know, I mean, if you're fighting, if you're outnumbered 100 to 1, I don't care what kind of weapon you have. If your 100 adversaries, if all they have are bricks, you get 100 bricks coming in on your position at the same time, and I don't care if you got a 50 caliber machine gun. You may get a bunch of that 100 people, but you're going to die under an onslaught of bricks and stones and bottles. All right? You can't deal with.
Well, number one, they want to get the military and police fighting with the American people. They're now saying the enemy isn't Al Qaeda; it's the sovereign citizens, it's the returning veterans. I see us winning the info war with police and military now in a big way, because everything you talked about 20 years ago, everything I talked about 17 years ago, it's all come true. So we have a lot of credibility. They're not stupid. They see what's happening. And now this new Army report where they're teaching the military that the Tea Party is going to link up with Al Qaeda. I mean, the criminal bankers are trying to now say the Tea Party's Al Qaeda. The police know that's ridiculous. They know. So it's tiny foreign offshore bankers, only a few thousand of them total, trying to get us to kill each other. That's how they're going to try to win.
I understand. And the truth of the matter is the police have far more in common with the people than they do with the government. They are functioning as knee breakers for the mob that runs this country. That's what they're being encouraged to do. But the truth is they have far more in common with the ordinary people than they do with the people that they're taking orders from. And in the end, their masters, people giving them orders, say, why don't you and them fight? Why don't you get killed? We'll wait over here. You go get killed. You know, I mean, as a police officer, you got to look at some of this stuff and say to yourself, you know, this is crazy. They're asking me to fight against hundreds of American people, and I don't really have a personal gripe with them.
Well, that's right. And expanding on that, that's why they're racing to autonomous drones and autonomous robots, basically an 18-wheeler that pulls up at your house and dumps a bunch of robots out of the back. That's what they've already got. They want to go to an automated system, but that's a decade off till that's really totally feasible. And even then, it's not like we're going to run out and fight the robots on their turf. You know, this is going to go into a guerrilla war. if we get to that point, and I'm trying to avert that, but what do you think about the attempts of the globalists to track everything, to digitize, to predict the future with their computers, which they already admit they can do to a great extent when we use their systems and they can track us, and to go to the machine-based system so they don't have humans that can refuse orders?
Well, here's the problem. They're going to have central control systems on this. If you've got all these robots or whatever it is you're going to put out there, drones, I guarantee you, you put drones up over Dallas, Texas, there's going to be one place where half a dozen or 50 people sit down and control the drones. There's going to be one target. All right? They've got centralized control on these things. The drones don't think for themselves. Neither do the robots. Somebody's sitting back in a room full of computers.
No, but that's the problem. They've already got autonomous. They're going to be satellite-based. And that brings us to the next deal. They can launch false flags with these drones and blame other governments or people with it. It's a nightmare situation. That was a drone attack on 9/11.
Well, I understand. Airplanes allegedly did things that airplanes can't do. What can you say?
Well, I mean, all the calls that were real off airphones, not the fake ones the FBI admit were never made by the Solicitor General's wife. I mean, it turned out it was fake. That's like Associated Press. The real calls were, there's gas, I can't breathe. They just had guys that were in a drill. We know they work for the government. They nerve gassed everybody on board, and a computer took over. And it's just incredibly diabolical that they did that.
Well, every bit of this is diabolical. You look back on this, for example, we talked about this man or other animals thing. I harp on it on a regular basis. First instance we found was the 1906 Pure Food and Drug Act. They defined food and drugs in terms of man or other animals. This is not an accident. This is evidence. This has been going on for a century. It's been in our law.
They said black people weren't humans, and that's why they could kill them or use them as slaves. This is thousands of years old. This is 4,000 years old.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And again, this is spiritual warfare. That's what we're engaged in. And I say, hooray. Once you get that, you understand this is great. I mean, this is great.
But you're not going to get the ammo you need at the 501c3 churches.
Well, it's going to be a dangerous time. But if you really believe, if you think there's another life coming, hey, spiritual warfare is fun. I know it's scary. I don't mean to understate that. I don't mean to, mistake.
No, I understand. When you actually tap into God, this all becomes fun. Yeah, I mean, even bad stuff becomes fun because you're doing the right thing.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it removes that sense of doubt. It removes that sense of personal fear and anxiety. And all of a sudden, hey, I'm good to go.
Well, the globalists in the videos we've gotten from Homeland Security training, they go, and these people are committed, and they're never going to back off. So you better watch them, and they're all scared of us in these meetings. They believe, they stand for something. Well, I mean, what do you guys believe in? You serve a bunch of foreign banks that want to abort little kids and stuff? I mean, it's sick.
You know how stupid this is? There are reports from Southern Poverty Law Center that estimate there's 300,000 members of the sovereignty movement, whatever that is, in the United States. And the FBI says there have been 6 homicides since 2000. In 12 years, there have been 6 homicides that have been linked to sovereigns. It didn't even say that these sovereign people...
But we're the number one threat.
Well, here's the problem. The homicide rate in this country is 17 per 100,000. If there are 300,000 sovereigns, we should be killing at least 17 people, 3 times that, 50-some people every year. And in fact, they can only point to 6 in 12 years. It indicates that we are orders of magnitude less violent than the ordinary people. That's the implication, and these are the numbers they...
That's right, but we're smarter and know how to navigate with our words is what's happening.
That's the problem. I'm a dangerous man. Do you know why? I've got 12 dictionaries. I've got 7 different versions of the Bible, and that's hard copy plus what I've got on the computer. That makes me a dangerous man. I can read, I can write. I am dangerous.
Well, you've got the Bible, man, and right there, like you said, it's all right there. That's why they make fun of it all day. They're scared you're going to get in it.